On this video, I'm going to explore the topic of demand avoidance and autism, brought to you by the fact that no one told me to do this video. Let's go. I want to touch on demand avoidance, which is what we're talking about, but I also want to briefly discuss, which we'll do later in the video, PDA. I think a lot of autistic people that might not meet the criteria of PDA absolutely experience demand avoidance as autistic people with autistic brains. So I want that to be the focus of this video, but we will touch on PDA. But first, let's kick it off with, I guess in essence, demand avoidance. It's basically when you find yourself unable to do something at a particular time. And the main driver of why you can't do that thing at a particular time is because of a demand to do it. So it's not that you didn't want to do the thing, it's that an intervening act of a demand to do the thing in some way or form has rendered you unable to do it now. As an autistic person, without even knowing about this, I've always struggled with this. For me, really the main takeaway, honestly and truly, this whole video is that demand avoidance for autistic people isn't actually a choice. It isn't actually a, a tantrum or to authority. It isn't. In my opinion, demand avoidance is a manifestation of a disability. So it's not something we just decide to do. And as such, demand avoidance, being a manifestation of a disability, should and must be respected. It shouldn't be treated like a tantrum. There's a difference. You still can be brats and have tantrums and just not do things because you don't want to do it. I'm talking about in the general terms of when an intervening act of some sort of demand is placed upon you doing that particular thing. But it must be respected as a manifestation of a disability, just like any other manifestation of any other disability. So as a parent, carer, friend, family member or partner of an autistic person, you may fall into the trap of just belittling it. Like, oh, you're having a tantrum, you're being a baby, you're acting like a child. That's belittling it. But you have to understand, demand avoidance being a manifestation of a disability should be respected, not belittled. It's important to acknowledge and try to look out for the signs. And I guess as part of my main goal and main takeaway of this video is to try and provide you with real life examples, but also real life advice that you can implement right now. Let's talk through some examples of demand avoidance. I guess some ways they could manifest in everyday life, so hopefully they might make more sense or resonate with you. So examples could include things like there was something I was going to do, I'd planned to do, but before I could actually do it, before I had the chance to do it, someone intervened and asked me to do it. And now I can't do it. So it's the asking or the reminding of someone else, that intervening act of asking or reminding, has now rendered me unable to do that task I'd planned and wanted to do. Another example, other people, so not me, are relying on me to do that particular thing, that particular task. And that reliance can actually lead me to not be able to complete that task. Here's an example that happens to me all the time. Okay, so there's something that I want to do, but there's a time constraint placed upon my ability to do the thing that I want to do. And let me even dig deeper on this example. Me and my wife. Okay, so it may feel, if there's something that I need to do, let's say I want to do a YouTube video and I know how long it takes me to record, I know how long it takes me to set up, to edit, all the stuff. And my wife finds a small window of time and says, why don't you go and do a video? Now the time constraint that's been placed on that window for me to do it isn't acceptable to me. So to her, it sounds like I've just chosen not to do it. I want the perfect situation. Or maybe I'm having a tantrum or being a brat. And I know she gets it, but from my point of view, I find it hard to convey to people in a way that I feel they believe me, is it's in no way a tantrum. It's in no way me going, no, I won't do it in that time constraint. It's a genuine feeling, an inability to start that task, knowing there's a time constraint that will impede on my ability to do the task I want to do. If you find a small window here and think, oh, I want to give my autistic partner that window to go and do that thing they wanted to do, but that window isn't even appropriate to complete that thing they wanted to do, they're probably going to push back in a way that makes you think they're just ungrateful or having a tantrum. But it's up here. It's an inability to complete that task or start that task based on a time constraint. And before we move on, I just want to be clear. When I say unable, I do not mean don't feel like it, okay? A lot of times I've said someone reminding me, someone asking me, someone relying on me, a time constraint renders me unable to do the task I planned to do and wanted to do. Unable doesn't mean renders me not in the mood for it. And this is the thing that's hard to explain. How do you explain the brain? Science can't explain the brain. As an autistic person, my brain has a different response to those types of demands, whether they're demands from people or demands of environmental time. It's not I don't feel like doing it. It's a legitimate and I promise you 100% inability to. Another way of putting it is that intervening act appear to me as completely immovable barriers, impenetrable barriers. Before I give you some genuinely personal experiences and examples from my point of view of an autistic person experiencing demand avoidance, and I'm going to give you a heap of those and some advice, I just want to quickly touch on PDA, pathological demand avoidance. Clearly, this is a diagnosable condition. I'm saying autistic people can experience a lesser form or a non-diagnosable presentation or characteristics of demand avoidance due to our autistic brain or our autistic experience, but you can also be diagnosed with PDA. And this is not a medical, healthcare, or academic YouTube channel, so let's just kind of cut to the chase. What is it? Well, I mean, basically, it's someone who exhibits a strong characteristic to avoid everyday demands and expectations for that matter. Either way, though, whether it's demands or expectations, the avoidance is to an extreme extent. And what I've read and seen and heard, PDA is being increasingly viewed as a profile of some autistic people. In other words, there's a genuine portion of autistic people that automatically out of the gate, if an autistic diagnosis, also have a strong characteristic, a profile of PDA. What I'm saying is there may be many, many more autistic people who experience demand avoidance. It might not meet that strong, severe extent characteristic of PDA, but they still absolutely, as autistic people, experience demand avoidance. So personally, I don't think I would meet the criteria of a diagnosable form of PDA. However, I definitely, as an autistic person, experience demand avoidance, and I've got some personal examples I'm going to give you in just a sec. What I want to say, though, is the reason why I don't think I would meet it is because, from my point of view, I find, and maybe this is similar to you, I find when you're in periods of overstimulated environments or periods of shutdown or meltdown, I find that can trigger demand avoidance to manifest more often, and certainly in periods of burnout, or it can lead to burnout. In other words, my experience of demand avoidance is more transient. All right, so let's get personal. Here's some of my own specific experiences as an autistic person dealing with demand avoidance. These come from my own personal life. Number one example, law school. If you've seen my videos on me studying at uni, you'll know this story already. I dropped out, and I can tell you one of the main drivers for me dropping out of law school, me being unable to continue in that study environment as an autistic person, was demand avoidance. In uni, as a law student, my experience is it's very important to contribute in tutorials, where a small group gets together and you talk about the content of the week, and it's kind of part of your assessment. And they'll say, attendance is 10% and participation, blah, 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 blah. And so it's forced to contribute in tutorials. That's one of the demand avoidances that absolutely triggered me and just filled me with just immense dread and anxiety and almost shut me down. Like even if I knew answers, I couldn't contribute because I was being forced to contribute. It sounds stupid, but I can only provide you my own personal experiences. Another law school trigger of demand avoidance is the classic lecturer asking questions, like pointing people out, singling people out, or even just asking questions in general. And assessments, like essays, written pieces, research projects, whatever they are, word counts, strict word counts, in addition to due dates. So that the idea that you must have this many words, and the idea that it must be submitted by not even a date. In law school, it's specific. It's like 5 p.m. on this day. Or demand avoidance is one of the main reasons why I try to avoid appointments. I try to avoid, making commitments to travel to different places to meet people. It's this demand. I know they don't demand it upon you, but this idea that you've committed to an appointment or a meeting at a different location, and therefore you have to travel to that location. You must be there at that time in the location. You must commit to doing that. There's kind of demand of time and place, and it's again, it's not a commitment thing, but it really does trigger this demand avoidance. And what's funny is, but you know what? I could travel all over the world on a holiday, but it's on my own terms. It's strange. It doesn't mean I don't go to appointments. It just means it's something I genuinely struggle with. The idea of, I avoid them. That's the best way of putting it. I would avoid commitments and appointments outside of my own safe space. When it relates to content, YouTube, podcasts, the kind of stuff I love, I think demand avoidance can absolutely lead me to have long periods of time where I simply can't work. I simply can't create content because I feel like there's some sort of demand placed upon me. The community must see a video every week or every so often. There must be a podcast each period of time. I must create new content today. And when I get into that rut, that renders me inoperable. I can't actually, even though I love it and I want to do it, I can't do it. And what can be even stranger to people who don't understand this or experience it is in that same time frame where I won't work on content for days on end, I can spend hours working or doing other things that have no demands or no deadlines placed on them. No worries at all. Demand avoidance is also probably one of the main drivers as to why I really struggle to do tasks that are time sensitive. Conversely though, absolutely no problem working on something for hours, days on end, based on an idea that just popped in my head with no real goal of release or time frame or deadline. No worries at all. Hey, can you do a podcast? We want to put it out next week. Ooh, you know what? I've got a great idea. I should start a new channel where I just make videos making animal noises. Let's go. My wife's favorite, I'm certain, is if she reminds me or asks me to do particular things around the house, maybe wash some clothes, fold some clothes, do this, do that, go to the post office, go to the shops. Something inside me, I feel like it's not something I'm going to prioritize. However, when no one mentions it, and I can see that there's a big pile of washing or there's some parcels we need to pick up, I just go do them. And it's not because I don't want to do stuff people ask me. Again, this is it's hard to convey. What happens up here, this demand avoidance trigger? I guess the bottom line is from my experiences, you just sound like a brat to people. What's your problem? You're just acting like a child. And I guess I'm trying to convey there is a difference. Sure, some people may be like that, but there is a difference. And it does come down to just a little bit more compassion and understanding on both ends. But there is a real difference here. There's something that actually is triggered in that demand avoidance for an autistic person that really does actually render them unable to do that task based on those intervening acts of demands. Well, we've broken down demand avoidance. We've touched on PDA, diagnosable form. We've talked about some examples. I provided you with some personal experiences of how I come to understand and experience demand avoidance. But how about some advice? Okay, well, let's start with the first clear bit of advice. For parents, carers, friends, family, partners of autistic people, the first thing I would advise in these types of demand avoidance situations is to not minimize it. That's the first thing. Let's not minimize it. Let's try to respect it, not belittle it. Why do you ask? Well, I guess the answer is it's up to you to determine if you think it is demand avoidance or it's not. But either way, you can't get into their autistic brain and work it out. So not minimizing it is going to help either way, right? In addition to that, autistic people experiencing demand avoidance can't actually just get on with it. There's no use saying, oh, come on, just get on with it. So as an autistic person, if you're experiencing it, beating yourself up isn't going to help. Forcing yourself isn't going to help. It's up to you as well to understand these triggers and to put in place some sort of self-care. Now, for people with autistic people in their life, it's similar. Don't beat them up. Don't yell and scream at them. Grow up. Just do it. Get on with it. Make it happen. Come on, snap out of it. In fact, not only will that make it worse, but in saying all those things, you are adding additional layers of demand, right? You've placed a demand on them. It's caused them to not be able to do it, to basically shut down to that task. And then you're going, no, just do it. No, come on, you can do it. No, you'll be right. Get it done. Come on, get going, move on, layer upon layer upon layer. Not helpful. Look at it like this. And I know I use the wheelchair analogy in pretty much every video, But you know what? It works. And it absolutely works in this example. So hear me out. Telling an autistic person experiencing demand avoidance, a manifestation of a disability, to just get on with it, in my view, is the equivalent of telling a person who uses a wheelchair to just walk up the stairs. Come on, just get up, walk up the stairs. We are talking about a characteristic of a medically diagnosed disability. Let's get past this. If you're autistic, you have a medically diagnosed disability. It doesn't matter if you don't want to view it like that. That's cool, but it's just factual. It is what it is. There's good and there's bad. And everyone needs to respect this, embrace this, and accept this. Further to that, the idea that we can just pick and choose when the manifestations of our disability occur or pop up, or we can dial it back or turn it off to get this job done, is unacceptable. It's outrageous. It's fanciful. And bottom line, it's just plain unhelpful. You may think there's no need to say this. I can tell you there is. People watching this, let's just all accept that an autistic person can't dial back the autism, turn it on or off, pick and choose when it manifests. And that's no different to anyone with any form of disability, any manifestation of your disability through varying co-occurring conditions or different characteristics. They are there or they are not there. It's so important just to understand this, to respect this as a manifestation of a disability and not something that you think is somehow willed or created. It's unhelpful. Let's just embrace the idea that people have manifestations in different ways for different reasons. That's what makes us people. Whether it's a diagnosable form of PDA or just a feeling or a sense that you experience some sort of demand avoidance as an autistic person. I hope this video has helped you in some way. Share it if it has. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I so appreciate your support by subscribing and sharing. You're helping us raise a level of understanding, acceptance, and appreciation of the autistic community. Until my next video, thanks for watching. We'll talk soon.